Frank Miller loved numbers more than people. As an accountant in the small town of Lakeside, Nebraska, he spent his days staring at spreadsheets and tax forms. His co-workers often joked that Frank was allergic to sunlight because of how pale his skin was. Frank never minded these jokes. He knew who he was, a 42-year-old divorced man who found comfort in the predictability of mathematics. This year was different, though. After his doctor warned him about vitamin D deficiency, Frank reluctantly agreed to join the company beach trip to California. Just a weekend, his boss Alan had said. It'll be good for you to get some sun and socialize a bit. Frank packed his suitcase with the same precision he used when organizing tax documents. He included sunscreen, but having never really used it before, he didn't understand its importance. He assumed it was like hand lotion, nice to have but not essential. The company rented a beach house in Santa Monica. Frank felt out of place among his more outgoing colleagues. While they played volleyball and chatted, he found a quiet spot, away from everyone else. He set up his beach chair, placed his book about the history of accounting on his lap, and sat down to read. The warm California sun felt pleasant on his skin. Frank couldn't remember the last time he had been this relaxed. The sound of waves crashing against the shore and the distant laughter of his coworkers created a peaceful background noise. Without realizing it, Frank closed his eyes and fell asleep. He woke up 3 hours later. His book had fallen onto the sand, and his pale skin had turned an angry shade of red. Frank felt a burning sensation across his back, shoulders, and face. When he tried to stand up, the pain made him wince. His skin felt tight and hot to the touch. "Frank, what happened to you?" Alan asked when Frank finally made it back to the beach house. "You look like a boiled lobster." "I fell asleep," Frank answered, embarrassed. "I forgot to put on sunscreen." "You need to see a doctor," said Judy from HR. "That's the worst sunburn I've ever seen." Frank insisted he was fine, but by evening, his skin had begun to blister. The pain was unbearable and he felt dizzy and nauseous. Finally, he agreed to go to the local hospital. Mercy General Hospital was busy that Saturday night. Frank sat in the waiting room for almost an hour before a nurse called his name. She led him to an examination room where Dr. Olivia Grant was waiting. Dr. Grant was a dermatologist who had been working at Mercy General for 15 years. She had seen thousands of sunburns, but never one quite like Frank's. "This is unusual," she said as she examined the blisters on his back. "Your skin is showing a reaction I haven't seen before." Frank winced as she gently touched his shoulder. "Is it serious?" "Probably not, but I'd like to run some tests. The pattern of inflammation is interesting, almost as if your skin cells are producing something in response to the burn." Dr. Grant took several skin samples and photographs. She gave Frank some medication for the pain and inflammation, told him to drink plenty of water, and asked him to come back the next day. That night, while Frank slept fitfully in his hotel room, Dr. Grant stayed late at the hospital. The initial test on Frank's skin samples showed something she had never encountered before. His cells were producing an unknown protein compound. She decided to run the samples through the hospital's new advanced scanner, a machine that had just been installed the previous week. The scanner was part of a cutting-edge medical technology program. What Dr. Grant didn't know was that it emitted a particular frequency when analyzing unknown compounds, a frequency that could be detected by certain non-terrestrial monitoring systems. 50 million miles from Earth, a detection buoy belonging to the Zendari Observation Network registered the signal. The buoy, disguised as a small asteroid, had been monitoring Earth for 300 years. Its purpose was to alert the Galactic Confederation if humans ever developed certain dangerous technologies or compounds. The signal from the hospital scanner matched a pattern in the buoy's database. Within minutes, an automated alert was transmitted through subspace to the nearest Confederation outpost. Back on Earth, Frank woke up feeling worse. His skin didn't just hurt. It itched intensely, and the blisters had grown larger. He called Dr. Grant, who told him to come to the hospital immediately. When Frank arrived, Dr. Grant was waiting with 2 other doctors. Something unusual is happening with your cells, she explained. They're producing a compound I've never seen before. It appears to be some kind of protein, but it doesn't match anything in our databases. Is it dangerous? Frank asked, suddenly, worried. We don't think so, Dr. Grant said. But we'd like to keep you here for observation and more tests. Frank was admitted to the hospital. Nurses took blood samples every few hours, and doctors from different departments came to examine him. Nobody told him that his case had been flagged by the CDC, or that specialists were flying in from Atlanta. 3 days after Frank's admission to the hospital, the first unusual events began. The hospital's electrical systems experienced unexplained fluctuations. Security cameras showed brief moments of static. The air felt charged like before a thunderstorm. At 2:13 a.m., while Frank slept, a satellite operated by the National Reconnaissance Office detected an object entering Earth's atmosphere. Unlike a meteor, this object slowed down as it descended and changed direction several times. It was approximately the size of a small car and emitted no heat signature. The object landed in the parking lot of Mercy General Hospital at 2:27 a.m. Security guards who went to investigate reported seeing a metallic sphere that glowed with a soft blue light. Before they could call for backup, the sphere emitted a pulse that rendered them unconscious. Agent Steve Martinez was asleep when his secure phone rang. As the regional coordinator for the newly formed Extraterrestrial Response Division, he received an alert whenever unusual aerial phenomena occurred in his jurisdiction. The ERD had been created after several unexplained incidents in recent years had convinced certain government officials that Earth was being observed by non-human intelligence. Martinez, he answered groggily. Sir, we have a confirmed landing at Mercy General Hospital in Santa Monica, said the voice on the other end. Object of unknown origin, approximately 2 meters in diameter. Local security is down, and we've lost contact with hospital systems. Steve was fully awake now. Casualty report? None so far. The object appears to have used some kind of non-lethal pulse technology. I'm on my way. Establish a perimeter 2 blocks out and get the tactical team ready. No engagement until I arrive. As Steve dressed quickly and grabbed his gear, he had no way of knowing that this night would change human history forever. The first official contact between humanity and the Galactic Confederation was about to happen. All because Frank Miller had forgotten to use sunscreen. Agent Steve Martinez reached Mercy General Hospital 20 minutes after receiving the call. 4 black SUVs were already parked outside, and men in tactical gear secured the perimeter. The hospital had been quietly evacuated, with patients moved to nearby facilities under the guise of a gas leak. Status report, Steve said to the team leader as he strapped on his bulletproof vest. The object is still in the east parking lot. No movement detected. We've set up a command post in the hospital cafeteria. Steve nodded and followed him inside. The hospital corridors were eerily quiet. Emergency lights cast long shadows on the Realm walls. What about the patient, the one with the unusual sunburn? Still in his room on the 3rd floor. We have 2 agents with him. He's asleep and unaware of the situation. In the cafeteria, screens showed thermal and radiation readings from around the hospital. Scientists in civilian clothes studied the data while military personnel stood guard. It's definitely not from Earth, said Dr. Patel, the team's xenobiologist. The metal composition doesn't match anything in our database, and it's emitting low levels of an unknown radiation. Dangerous? Steve asked. Not to humans, as far as we can tell. But it's interfering with our electronics. Anything within 20 feet of the object stops working. A young technician interrupted them. Sir, the object is opening. Everyone turned to the screens. The metallic sphere in the parking lot was changing shape, sections of its surface sliding, apart like petals of a flower. A soft blue light poured out from inside. Get the response team ready, Steve ordered. Non-lethal measures only. Remember your training. But before anyone could move, every screen in the command center went dark. Lights flickered and died. Even battery-powered devices shut down. EMP? Someone asked in the darkness. No, Dr. Patel replied. Something more selective. Only our technology is affected. The emergency lights came back on after a few seconds, but all communication devices remained dead. "We need visual confirmation of what's happening outside," Steve said. "Old school." 2 agents were sent to observe from windows overlooking the parking lot. They returned 5 minutes later, their faces pale. "Sir, there are beings. 3 of them. Tall, at least 7 feet. Thin. They're walking toward the hospital main entrance." Steve took a deep breath. First contact protocols had been established years ago, but he never thought he'd be the one implementing them. "I'll meet them," he said. "Dr. Patel, you're with me. Everyone else stays here unless I call for backup." Steve and Dr. Patel walked to the main lobby. Through the glass doors, they could see 3 figures approaching. The beings moved with fluid grace, almost gliding across the pavement. Their skin shimmered with colors that shifted like oil on water. They wore no visible clothing, but their bodies seemed covered in a thin metallic film that reflected the streetlights. "Ready?" Steve asked. Dr. Patel nodded, though her hands trembled slightly. Steve pushed the door open and stepped outside. The 3 beings stopped about 10 feet away. Up close, their features became clearer. They had no visible nose or ears, just indentations where these features would be on a human. Their eyes were large, solid black orbs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Each had 4 long, slender fingers on each hand. The tallest of the 3 raised a small device. It emitted a series of musical tones, then began speaking, in perfect English. "We are representatives of the Zendari Observation Council, a division of the Galactic Confederation. We come with urgent purpose regarding a dangerous discovery at this facility." Steve had been trained for many scenarios, but the being's perfect English caught him off guard. "I am Agent Martinez of Earth's Diplomatic Services. We welcome peaceful contact. May I ask the nature of your urgent purpose?" The device translated his words into musical tones. The 3 beings communicated briefly among themselves before the translator spoke again. "Our monitoring systems detected the creation of a quantum reactive protein compound at this location. This compound is classified as extremely dangerous under Confederation Regulation 7293. We must examine the source immediately." Dr. Patel stepped forward. "You're referring to the compound found in a patient with an unusual sunburn reaction? I'm a scientist. I can show you our research." The beings conferred again, their bodies changing colors from blue to purple. Finally, they agreed to follow Steve and Dr. Patel inside. Meanwhile, on the 3rd floor, Frank Miller awoke to find 2 strangers in suits standing in his hospital room. "What's going on?" he asked groggily. The medication made his thoughts fuzzy. "Nothing to worry about, Mr. Miller," one agent replied. "Just a precautionary measure due to a minor situation in the hospital." Frank tried to sit up, but his sunburned skin still hurt too much. "What kind of situation requires men with guns?" Before the agent could answer, the door opened. Dr. Grant entered, her face tense. "Frank, how are you feeling?" she asked, checking his vital signs with practiced efficiency. "Like I've been microwaved." "What's happening, Dr. Grant?" "Nobody will tell me anything." Dr. Grant hesitated, then sighed. "I don't fully understand it myself, but your sunburn has produced something unusual, something that has attracted attention." Their conversation was interrupted when the phone rang. One of the agents answered, listened briefly, then turned to Dr. Grant. "They want the patient brought to the research lab immediately." "He's in no condition to be moved," Dr. Grant protested. "Those are the orders. They said you should come too." In the hospital's main research lab, Steve Martinez watched the 3 aliens examine Dr. Grant's equipment with fascination. They moved with precision, their long fingers manipulating human technology with surprising ease. "Your species has advanced quickly," the translator device said, "but you do not understand the forces you are tampering with." "We weren't tampering with anything," Dr. Patel explained. "The compound appeared naturally in a patient's skin cells after sun exposure." The alien's skin rippled with colors. "Impossible. The quantum fold protein requires specific molecular manipulation. It cannot occur naturally." The lab door opened. Two agents wheeled in Frank on a hospital bed, with Dr. Grant walking alongside. The three aliens turned simultaneously, their skin flashed bright yellow, and they stepped back as if frightened. "That is the source?" the translator asked. "This being produced the compound?" Frank stared at the aliens, his mouth open in shock. What are they?" Dr. Grant squeezed his hand. "Visitors. They're interested in your condition." The tallest alien approached Frank's bed cautiously. It held out a small, crystal-like device that emitted a soft humming sound as it passed over Frank's body. The alien's skin turned deep red. "Confirmation. The quantum fold protein is present in high concentration," the translator announced. "This is unprecedented. The human species should not be capable of producing this compound." "What is this compound?" Steve asked. "And why is it dangerous?" The aliens conferred among themselves, their colors shifting rapidly. Finally, they seemed to reach a decision. "The compound your kind calls a protein is actually a molecular key. When exposed to certain energy frequencies, it can unlock barriers between dimensions. In sufficient quantity, it could destabilize the quantum fabric that separates different layers of reality." Frank looked from the aliens to Dr. Grant. "All this because I got a sunburn?" The alien's translator chimed. "Your species' ignorance is concerning. You have accidentally created something that could threaten the stability of our galaxy. We must report this to the Confederation immediately." The three aliens moved together, forming a circle. Their skin began to glow with increasing brightness. "Wait," Steve called out. "What does this mean for Earth? For humanity?" The translator spoke one last time before the light enveloped the aliens completely. "It means your world is now under observation. The Confederation Council will decide your fate." With a flash that temporarily blinded everyone in the room, the aliens vanished. When the spots cleared from Steve's vision, he saw Frank staring at the empty space where the visitors had been. "So," Frank said quietly, "I guess I should have used sunscreen after all." News of the alien visit spread quickly through government channels. Within hours, Frank Miller was transferred to a secure facility hidden in the mountains of Colorado. Dr. Grant went with him, along with a team of scientists eager to study the strange protein compound in his skin. The facility looked like a normal research center from the outside. Inside, it was filled with advanced equipment and guarded by soldiers. Frank was given a comfortable room, but he knew he couldn't leave. He was now the most important person on Earth, though not in a way he had ever wanted. "How long will I be here?" Frank asked Dr. Grant as she checked his sunburn, which was slowly healing. "I don't know," she answered honestly. "Until we understand what's happening with your cells, or until our visitors return." Frank sighed. "I just wanted a weekend at the beach." 3 days after the aliens left, they returned. Not 3, but 30 ships appeared in Earth's orbit. They were visible to the naked eye at night, glowing blue points that didn't move like stars or planes. In the Colorado facility, Agent Martinez watched the news reports with growing concern. Panic was spreading. Religious groups claimed it was the end times. Stock markets crashed. Some people fled to bunkers or remote areas. "We need to control the narrative," said General Adams, the facility's commander. "The president will address the nation tonight, but we need more information about what we're facing." As if in answer to his words, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. The blue lights in the night sky were moving. One of the ships was descending toward their location. "How did they find us?" Agent Martinez asked. "This place is supposed to be secret." "They must be tracking the protein compound in Frank's cells," Dr. Grant suggested. "We should prepare to meet them." Unlike the first meeting, this time Earth was more ready. When the alien ship landed on the helicopter pad outside the facility, a delegation was waiting. The president's science advisor, military officials, and diplomats stood alongside Agent Martinez and Dr. Grant. Frank watched nervously from a window inside. The ship was larger than the sphere from the hospital, about the size of a bus. Its surface rippled like water as a door formed in its side. 5 aliens emerged, but they were different from the first visitors. These were shorter, with rough bark-like skin, and 6 limbs that moved with mechanical precision. "Those aren't the same species," Dr. Grant whispered to Agent Martinez. A device floated in front of the aliens, projecting a holographic image as it spoke. "We are representatives of the Dorvan Protective Fleet, an enforcement division of the Galactic Confederation. We have come regarding the quantum destabilizer detected on this world." General Adams stepped forward. "We welcome you to Earth. We are still learning about this compound and would appreciate your guidance." The aliens' limbs clicked against each other, making sounds like wooden blocks knocking together. The translator device hovered higher. "There is no time for guidance. The Zandari report confirms this world has accidentally developed a compound that threatens galactic stability. We must eliminate the threat immediately." The word eliminate sent a chill through the human delegation. "By threat, do you mean the compound or?" Agent Martinez let the question hang in the air. "All potential sources must be neutralized." The device translated. "Our scans indicate 17,423 humans on this planet share the genetic markers that could produce the quantum fold protein under the right conditions." Dr. Grant stepped forward. "You can't possibly mean to harm thousands of innocent people. The stability of the galaxy outweighs the concerns of a single pre-Confederation species," the translator replied coldly. "Our ships are already identifying the locations of all potential carriers." Inside the facility, Frank watched the exchange on a monitor. He felt sick. Thousands of people might die because they shared his genes, because he forgot sunscreen. He couldn't let that happen. Before his guards could stop him, Frank ran from the room and out onto the helicopter pad. The aliens turned toward him, their limbs moving in sudden agitation. "I'm the one you want," Frank shouted. "The others haven't produced the compound. Take me if you have to, but leave everyone else alone." The aliens' bark-like skin changed texture, becoming smoother. Their limbs moved in complex patterns as they communicated with each other. Agent Martinez moved to Frank's side. "That was brave and stupid. I couldn't just watch," Frank replied. The alien's translator device floated toward Frank. "You are the primary source of the quantum fold protein?" "Yes," Frank answered, trying to stand tall despite his fear. "Your willingness to sacrifice is noted but irrelevant. The danger remains as long as the genetic potential exists in your species." Before anyone could respond, the sky lit up with new lights. 3 more ships descended, these with a different design, sleek and silver, like falling stars. They landed in a circle around the Dorvan ship. From each new ship emerged tall, graceful beings with 4 arms and skin that changed colors like the first aliens Frank had seen. But these wore flowing robes marked with symbols. "Malurians," one of the Dorvan aliens clicked, the translator picking up the word. One of the new aliens approached, its skin shifting through shades of green and gold. It carried no visible translator, but when it spoke, everyone heard the words in their own language. "The Dorvan exceed their authority," the Malurian said. "The Confederation Council has not approved elimination measures." "The threat is clear," the Dorvan translator argued. "Immediate action is necessary." "All life is sacred," the Malurian countered. "These beings did not intentionally create the compound. There are alternatives to destruction." As the aliens argued, more ships appeared in the sky. Some landed, bringing representatives of other species. Some remained in orbit, their purposes unknown. Within hours, the helicopter pad and surrounding fields became an impromptu galactic diplomatic conference. 17 different alien species had arrived, each with their own agenda. Some supported the Dorvan's call for elimination. Others, like the Malurians, advocated for mercy. Some seemed mainly curious about humans. In the chaos, Dr. Grant pulled Frank, Agent Martinez, and General Adams aside. "While they're arguing, we need to understand exactly what this protein compound does," she said. "If we can control it, maybe we can convince them we're not a threat." "How do we do that?" Frank asked. Dr. Grant looked at the alien ships. "We need their knowledge. They understand this compound better than we do. General Adams nodded. I'll speak with the president. If these aliens are going to decide our fate, we need to be part of the conversation. As night fell, the mountain facility had become the center of the galaxy's attention. Humans and aliens cautiously began to communicate, each trying to understand the other's perspective. Frank Miller, the accountant who had never left Nebraska before this trip, now stood at the center of humanity's first major extraterrestrial diplomatic crisis. His sunburn was almost healed, but the protein compound in his cells was still active, still potentially dangerous. What happens now? He asked Agent Martinez as they watched more alien ships arrive. Now? Martinez replied, looking at the gathering of species that had traveled across the stars to reach Earth. Now we try to save the world. 2 weeks passed. The mountain facility had grown into a small city of temporary buildings and alien ships. Humans and aliens worked side by side, sharing knowledge and technology. Some aliens were friendly, others suspicious, but all were focused on the problem of the quantum fold protein. Frank spent most of his time in the main research lab. Scientists from Earth and 7 alien species studied his cells, trying to understand the strange reaction his sunburn had triggered. Dr. Grant rarely left his side, protecting him from experiments that might be dangerous. "How are you holding up?" she asked Frank one evening as they ate dinner in the cafeteria. Aliens with compatible biology sat at nearby tables, sampling Earth food with various reactions. "I'm tired of being a lab rat," Frank admitted, but at least they're not talking about eliminating anyone anymore. This was true. The immediate threat had passed after the Confederation Council. The governing body of the Galactic Alliance had overruled the Dorvan's elimination plan. Instead, they established a research directive to understand and control the protein compound. Captain Lisa Johnson entered the cafeteria, scanning the room until she spotted Frank and Dr. Grant. Lisa was a pilot who had been assigned as Earth's military liaison to the aliens. Her short blonde hair and confident walk made her easy to recognize. "We have a situation," Lisa said, sitting down at their table. "The Vixilians have been selling information about the protein compound to unaligned worlds." "Is that bad?" Frank asked. Lisa nodded. "Very bad. Some of these worlds have unstable governments or radical groups that might try to weaponize the compound. The Confederation is worried, but they don't fully understand the compound themselves," Dr. Grant pointed out. "How could anyone weaponize it?" "They don't need to understand it to cause damage," Lisa explained. "Just having the formula is enough to create panic. 3 major trade routes have been shut down because ships refuse to travel near any source of the compound." Frank pushed his food away, no longer hungry. "So, I'm causing an economic crisis now too?" "It's not your fault," Lisa said firmly. "But we need to solve this soon. The Dorvan are using these developments to argue again for more drastic measures." As if summoned by her words, alarms began to sound throughout the facility. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "What's happening?" Frank asked as soldiers rushed into the cafeteria. Agent Martinez's voice came over the speakers. "All personnel to secure locations. We have an unauthorized ship entering Earth's atmosphere. Repeat, unauthorized ship approaching." Lisa stood up, immediately. "Come with me. We need to get you to the bunker level." They hurried through corridors filled with people running in different directions. Alien visitors were being escorted to their ships or to secure areas. Through a window, Frank saw a new light in the sky, larger and brighter than the other alien vessels. "Is that the unauthorized ship?" he asked. Lisa glanced out the window and frowned. "Yes, and it's big. Probably a Dorvan warship." "I thought the Confederation Council told them to stand down," Dr. Grant said. "The Dorvan military doesn't always follow council orders," Lisa replied grimly. "They believe they know what's best for galactic security." They reached the elevator that would take them to the underground bunker. As the doors opened, the building shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're firing on us," Lisa shouted, pulling Frank and Dr. Grant into the elevator. She pressed the button for the lowest level. The elevator began to descend, but stopped suddenly between floors. The lights went out. Then emergency lighting came on, casting everything in dim red. "Power's out," Lisa said, trying the emergency phone. "And communications." "Can we climb out?" Frank asked, looking at the ceiling hatch. "Too dangerous. The shaft might be damaged." Lisa pulled a small device from her pocket. "This is a Telosian communicator. Our new allies gave a few of these to key personnel." She activated the device, which projected a small hologram of swirling colors. "Captain Johnson, requesting emergency extraction. 3 humans trapped in elevator shaft 4B, level 3. The hologram pulsed in response, though no words were heard. Lisa turned to Frank and Dr. Grant. "Help is coming. The Telosians can transport us out of here." "Transport? Like in science fiction." "Movies?" Frank asked. "Similar, but it works by creating a temporary spatial fold," Lisa explained. "Stand close together." Another explosion rocked the building. The elevator creaked ominously. "Hurry," Lisa urged the communicator. The air in the elevator began to shimmer. Frank felt a tingling sensation across his skin. Dr. Grant grabbed his hand. "This is my first alien transport too," she whispered. The world around them seemed to fold, colors blending together. Frank felt momentarily weightless, then his feet touched solid ground again. They were standing in a room with curved walls made of a material that looked like mother of pearl. 2 tall, slender aliens with blue-tinted skin nodded in greeting. "Welcome to the Telosian vessel," one said in perfect English. "Your world is under attack." "The Dorvan?" Lisa asked. "Yes. They claim to be acting in the interest of galactic security, but they have violated Confederation law by attacking a protected world." "Protected? Since when is Earth protected?" Dr. Grant asked. "Since the Confederation Council meeting, yesterday. Your world was granted provisional protection status while the quantum fold protein research continues." Frank looked at the aliens in confusion. "So the Dorvan are breaking the law by attacking us?" "Yes. Other Confederation ships are moving to intercept them, but they may not arrive in time to prevent significant damage." Lisa stepped forward. "We need to stop them now. Is there anything we can do?" The Telosians looked at each other, their skin shifting to a deeper blue. "There is one possibility. The Dorvan fear the quantum fold protein because they do not understand it. Perhaps if we could demonstrate its true nature." "What is its true nature?" Frank asked. "Everyone keeps talking about how dangerous it is, but no one has explained exactly what it does." The Telosians guided them to another room filled with holographic displays showing complex molecular structures. One alien gestured and the display zoomed in on a particular molecule that Frank recognized from his test results. "The quantum fold protein does not destroy or destabilize," the Telosian explained. "It restructures and reinforces. The Dorvan misunderstood the Xandari research." Dr. Grant studied the displays with growing excitement. "You're saying it's not destructive at all?" "Correct. In its natural form, it strengthens quantum bonds. It only becomes disruptive when artificially manipulated with specific energy frequencies." Frank looked at the complex diagrams, trying to understand. "So my sunburn accidentally created something helpful?" "Potentially, yes. The protein could be used to stabilize wormholes and prevent quantum decay in aging spacetime structures." Another Telosian entered the room hurriedly. "The Dorvan have begun large-scale bombardment of the human facility. Confederation forces will not arrive for another 27 minutes. We don't have that much time," Lisa said. "How can we prove to them that the protein isn't dangerous?" Dr. Grant turned to Frank. "We need to show them directly. Frank, would you be willing to demonstrate the protein's effects under controlled conditions?" Frank looked around at the alien ship, thinking about the attack happening below, about all the people in danger because of something his body had created. "What do I need to do?" he asked. "We will need to extract a sample of the protein and expose it to quantum field energy in a controlled environment," the Telosian explained. "Will it hurt?" Frank asked. "The extraction is painless. The demonstration carries some risk, but we will take all possible precautions." Frank took a deep breath and nodded. "Let's do it. I can't let people die because of my sunburn." The Telosians moved quickly, preparing equipment and explaining the procedure. As they worked, Frank looked out a viewport at Earth below. He could see flashes of light where the Dwarven ships were attacking. "I never thought I'd be trying to save the world," he said quietly. Dr. Grant squeezed his hand. "Most heroes don't plan to be heroes, Frank. They just do what needs to be done when the moment comes." Frank nodded and turned away from the window. "Then let's get started. We have a lot of people to save." The Telosian ship moved quickly through Earth's atmosphere, flying toward a specific destination. Frank sat in a chair designed for a body shape different from his own, watching as the aliens prepared various devices around him. Dr. Grant monitored his vital signs while Captain Lisa coordinated with other Confederation ships. "Where are we going?" Frank asked as mountains and oceans passed beneath them. "To the Cygnus Gateway," one of the Telosians answered. "It is the oldest and most unstable wormhole in this sector of the galaxy." "There's a wormhole near Earth?" Dr. Grant asked in surprise. "Yes. It has been here for thousands of years, hidden behind the magnetic field of your sun. It is rarely used now because of its instability. That makes it perfect for our demonstration." Frank tried to stay calm as a Telosian approached with a device that looked like a silver wand. "This will extract the protein compound from your cells," the alien explained. "It is harmless." Frank nodded and closed his eyes as the device passed over his arm. It felt warm, nothing more. When he opened his eyes, the Telosian was holding a small vial filled with glowing blue liquid. "That came from me?" Frank asked. "Yes. This is the quantum-fold protein in its pure form." Captain Lisa joined them, her face serious. "The Dwarven ships have destroyed most of the research facility. They're moving on to other targets. We need to hurry." The ship accelerated, moving faster than any aircraft Frank had ever experienced. The view outside changed from blue sky to the blackness of space in minutes. Soon they were approaching the sun, though the ship's shields protected them from its heat and radiation. "The Cygnus Gateway is just ahead," a Telosian announced. "Sensors show severe quantum instability. It has perhaps 50 years of operational life remaining." Through the viewport, Frank saw nothing unusual at first. Then the Telosians activated a different viewing mode and he gasped. A massive swirling pattern of energy hung in space, its edges fraying and collapsing inward. It reminded Frank of a whirlpool, beautiful but clearly dying. "That's a wormhole?" he asked. "Yes, a pathway between distant points in space. This one connects to a location 90 light-years away. It was created by an ancient species long before the Confederation formed." Dr. Grant studied the readings on a nearby screen. "It's degrading rapidly. The quantum structure is unraveling." "Precisely," the Telosian said. "And now we will show what the quantum-fold protein can do." Another Telosian brought over a clear container with mechanical arms extending into it. The blue vial was placed inside. "We will manipulate the protein remotely and direct it toward the wormhole's edge. If our theory is correct, it should begin repairing the quantum decay." Frank watched nervously as the ship moved closer to the massive energy vortex. "Is this safe?" "We are maintaining optimal distance," the Telosian assured him. "But this has never been attempted before. There is always risk in discovery." Captain Lisa received a message on her communicator. "The Dwarven fleet has been alerted to our location. They're heading this way. We have maybe 10 minutes. "That should be sufficient," the Telosian said calmly. "We are ready to begin." The container with Frank's protein sample began to glow more intensely. Mechanical arms manipulated the liquid, exposing it to different energy fields. Then a beam of blue light shot from the ship toward the edge of the wormhole. For several seconds, nothing happened. Frank held his breath. Dr. Grant squeezed his hand. Then slowly, the fraying edges of the wormhole began to change. The decay stopped. New patterns of energy formed, strengthening the structure. The swirling vortex grew more stable, its colors brightening. "It's working," Dr. Grant whispered in awe. The Telosians monitored their instruments with growing excitement. "The quantum decay has reversed. The gateway is regenerating at an unprecedented rate." "How long will the effect last?" Captain Lisa asked. "Based on these readings, centuries, perhaps millennia," The protein is not just repairing the damage but strengthening the underlying quantum structure. Frank stared at the wormhole, amazed that something from his body was healing this massive space phenomenon. So my Sunburn actually created something good? More than good, the Telosian replied. Revolutionary. Wormhole decay has been an unsolved problem in the Confederation for thousands of years. This could change interstellar travel forever. Captain, Lisa's communicator beeped urgently. The Dorvan ships are here. 3 warships just emerged from lightspeed. The view screen showed large, angular vessels approaching rapidly, their weapon systems active. We need more time to complete the demonstration, a Telosian said. We don't have time, Lisa replied grimly. They're charging weapons. Frank stood up from his chair. Can they see what's happening to the wormhole? Can you show them? Yes, we can transmit the data, but they may not believe it. Try, Frank urged. They need to see that the protein isn't a weapon. The Telosians sent the information to the approaching Dorvan ships. For several tense moments, there was no response. The warships continued their approach. Then, suddenly, they stopped. They're requesting visual confirmation, Lisa said in surprise. They want to see the wormhole directly. The Telosian ship moved aside, giving the Dorvan vessels a clear view of the Cygnus gateway. The wormhole now pulsed with healthy energy, its structure visibly stronger than before. They're scanning the gateway, a Telosian reported. Analyzing the quantum patterns. Minutes passed in tense silence. Finally, Lisa's communicator activated. The Dorvan command acknowledges the demonstration, she translated. They are apologizing for their misinterpretation of the data. Frank let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. So we're not going to be eliminated? It appears not, the Telosian said, a note of amusement in their voice. In fact, they are requesting permission to study the process. The Dorvan have been particularly affected by wormhole decay in their sector. Over the next few hours, ships from a dozen different Confederation species arrived to witness the demonstration. Each confirmed the same result. The quantum fold protein from Frank's Sunburn had properties that could revitalize failing wormholes throughout the galaxy. 3 days later, Frank stood in the newly constructed United Earth Embassy, a facility built with alien technology to replace the destroyed research center. Representatives from 37 Confederation species had gathered to sign a historic agreement. In recognition of humanity's contribution to galactic stability, read the Confederation ambassador, Earth is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Confederation, with all rights and protections therein. Frank watched from the back of the room as Dr. Grant and Captain Lisa accepted the formal invitation on behalf of Earth. He still couldn't quite believe that his unfortunate Sunburn had led to first contact, a galactic crisis, and now Earth joining an interstellar alliance. Agent Martinez found him after the ceremony. How does it feel to be the human who changed history? Frank smiled sheepishly. Honestly, I still wish I'd remembered my sunscreen. Martinez laughed. Well, the president wants to give you a medal, and the Confederation Council has invited you to visit their homeworlds as an honored guest. I'm just an accountant, Frank protested. I didn't do anything special. Sometimes the most ordinary people make the biggest differences, Martinez replied, and sometimes the biggest discoveries happen by accident. As Frank looked out the window at the alien ships hovering peacefully in Earth's sky, he had to admit that Martinez was right. His simple mistake had opened the door to the stars. So, he asked with a smile, when do we leave for our first alien world? Tomorrow, Martinez answered. But this time, we're definitely packing sunscreen.